trying to stay close.
And 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It's lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 240. 240 is entitled Destructive Patterns. Sometimes we have patterns of communication that hurt our relationships. Tonight, we'll be looking at polarizing patterns. Pull up a seat at the table and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later at youtube.com/lunchtime in Rome. Visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com, and while there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you gave us a 5-star review. Jay, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you're all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone, and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes of the podcast. We talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is lunchtime in Rome with Mary Lynn.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Chris isn't here.
You could have used the clapping drop.
Now, does that come through?
It should.
Does it get recorded?
It should.
That's fantastic.
Okay. I'm not going to abuse it, I promise.
Oh, I kind of want you to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pew, pew, pew.
So, yeah, but speaking of Chris, we went on a lovely date with him and Amy on Friday night.
Aww.
Yeah.
Very nice.
busy.
What's that?
Very nice.
Yeah, it was very nice.
We were busy.
Where did you go?
I wasn't
Mary's
invited.
Vine.
Me either.
Mary's Vine is in Rankin. Amy and I went there on a
Ooh,
date.
they went back to that place. Was it as good?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In Rankin?
In Rankin.
Really?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, it's this hidden gem. And
Is Rankin still Rankin?
It's Rankin. But it's cool. They have.
Oh.
All right. Well, we're recording at least.
Yeah, I mean,
So, but it's in this. I can't remember if I talked about this before or not. But it's in the old church. If you're coming back from Kennywood, about to go through, going over the bridge, coming into Swissvale, it's that church on the left. It's in that church.
okay.
And they have a speakeasy in the basement with a
in a church.
cigar.
In a
Yeah,
church.
yeah. It's awesome. It's
Like a cigar bar.
down in the basement, and then like the restaurant is up like where the sanctuary used to be, and it's like it's delicious. It's very good.
So what did you get?
I got we shared a charcuterie board, which was delicious, and I got. I'm remembering what everybody else got. Gosh, that's horrible, because it's so good.
It sounds delicious.
I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank.
I'll try that next time I go there.
I know. But no, the staff is great. They're very helpful, and no, it's a great place.
Would you go back?
Oh yeah.
What's it called again?
Mary's Vine.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So lots of different wine selections, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a great time with Chris and Amy, because we actually dyed Easter eggs over at their house. They invited us to dye Easter eggs this year, and then we decided, hey, we should go out on a date. And we were like, okay, let's do it. Let's just get it on the calendar, because we needed something to look forward to. So we did, and it was great and so fun. And I miss Chris.
Oh,
She's not here.
sorry.
So
You just said she's not here.
because he's not here.
Oh, that makes more sense. Like, I miss Chris, that little woman.
I don't think I said she. Maybe
No,
I
you said because she's not here.
because he's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rankin.
We talked about it before, but do you know that our grandfather was offered to be mayor of Rankin?
No.
Offered to be mayor? Like you didn't even have to run?
Well,
Some men came to my dad's dad, Papa Mitlow, and said, "Hey, you want to be mayor of Rankin?" And he was like, "Well, don't I have to run?" And they went,
Different day. Well, maybe not different days back then.
well, it's funny you said that, because our great aunt and uncle
Yes.
had a bar called the Rendezvous right
Oh.
across the Rankin Bridge, but it was down below. And Pop-Up said they invented pizza.
"Oh,
That sounds like a pop-up story.
Yeah.
They invented pizza.
Yeah.
people
I
in
remember being there.
Napoli will be very upset to hear that."
Yeah.
Yeah, well, The
No,
mayor.
not Napoli. What am I thinking of? As it is.
Mayor of Rankin.
Yeah. And I made the same joke before. I'll make it again tonight. Place wouldn't look like it does right now if he was in charge.
Well, so that's interesting to me. Like, why would somebody that is going to start a business, and no offense to Rankin, I'm just
dude,
like, it's just,
well, and when you
it's been
see
down for a while.
We'll go.
It's been down for a
We'll go
while.
with you and Lex. We'll go together, because when you go there, it's like, in Jurassic Park when they say we spared no expense.
Yeah.
Like they spared
But that's
no
so
expense.
interesting there, though.
Because when you go downstairs into the hallway, it's like a speakeasy. It's this giant picture on the wall, and then you pull this cane, and then the door opens up. The picture opens up, and then you go back in
Get
there.
out.
It's awesome because they have the like the whiskey lounge / cigar bar, and then they have another room that's like game tables, like poker table and like chess and like all just tables. If you
I've heard
bring
it
your own
connects
game.
to the tunnels in the Vatican.
Well, there is a tunnel
See?
that we went
See?
down and we got turned around. So there
Really?
there might be something there. I don't
That
know.
sounds interesting.
It is. It's
It
very
connects
cool.
to Braddock.
But man, it's like
It connects to the Edgar Thompson mine.
It connects to olives and peppers down there on the other side of the bridge.
but it's cool. And
That's really cool.
they have live music and stuff. So yeah,
And the food was just as good this time.
yeah. Even though I can't remember what I had,
Yeah. It blew your mind.
it did.
Blew it so hard you don't even remember. So I have been getting fed these woodworking and epoxy videos on YouTube. Somehow, I don't know. I've just been getting, and they're fascinating. I can't look away now. Like a guy will chop down, he'll have a big piece of just a tree trunk, and the next thing you know that he's made this amazing bench.
Because I saw one the other day where a guy took a log and made it into a lamp.
Yeah, well, those
But
two.
that one, I was like, all right, bro, you can buy lamps. Like, it wasn't that good looking of a lamp. Like, I'm ready for him to make something real. I was like, what's a lamp? Like, it wasn't even.
Like I watched one before I came over here. Was somebody took like 500 sheets of paper, and eventually like they put epoxy and like resin in it and made a bowl which you could eat out of. It was very cool just to see how they chisel things away. I don't know.
No, I get it though, because like I very much like those things. Like even like how it's made on
Yeah.
Discovery. You just get you just start,
Especially when
watching.
they speed it up. So you're just like, it's not going
Yeah.
to take me too long to
Yeah.
watch this 4
Right.
day project.
There's a
Right.
channel that I follow. I can't remember the name on YouTube, where the guy restores old things, like anything from like an old telephone to like maybe a firearm or something from like World War II.
Wow.
And what's cool is like he'll go through and he doesn't talk, but he'll write like what he's doing, and if a part is like too destroyed or decayed or whatever, he will make it, and he'll show him making it, and he'll talk through the process through the captions. But it I will stare. Like it is fascinating. I love that stuff.
I think restoration just in general is cool. Lex and I used to restore houses. We did a couple flips, and it was a lot of fun to see something, to buy a house that was just in shambles.
Yeah,
And
bring it back to life.
yeah, that we did the first
That's
one.
cool.
We did the first one by hand, which after that we were like, nope. So we hired a crew and did a couple more after that, and it was fun. And the last one we did, it was down in actually the Mexican war streets, and this place was just it was 3 stories, but the roof had kind of caved in, but the people had been living there.
Oh my gosh.
They stopped using the toilet. Like their water got shut off, so they went to the bathroom right beside the toilet. Like this place was a disaster. Like there were
Literal dump.
literal dump, hoarding and paths through the junk. It took like 6 months to get rid of the roaches. Like even after we'd finished it, like they completely almost took everything down to the studs. It still took us like 6 months to get rid of the roaches. It's like this place was so bad. But we did a really nice job. Lex did a really nice job because she was in charge of a lot of parts of that. And we got some a custom like mantle and fireplace, something around the railings and stuff like that. So, and then at the end of the day when we sold it, we looked. It was like, wow, this place was terrible, and we did something really cool with it. So yeah,
That is neat.
I love the restoration stuff. I love to see what you can make out of other stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Just kind of plugging away at work, still trying to solve all the Apple Ice problems. but
At least trying not to cause any.
yeah,
Step one.
yeah, we're
Step two, solve.
We're kind of like at this neutral point now where we're not really creating anymore, and we're still solving them, but they're just not solved today. You
Such
know
a
what I mean?
grind.
It is a grind. Today was a little bit of a tough day. Just seems like the project might be pushed back a little bit more, which kind of makes me nervous because just for a lot of different reasons. But
Tomorrow has been pushed back.
Tomorrow it already has been pushed back 2 years. Yeah, so there's a lot going on with that, but we've got a good team. We finally have a really good team, and you know, again, I'm excited about seeing where we're going. It's just the only way forward is through.
It's great how perfectly suited you are for your position. You know, you have the right mindset, the right makeup. You know that you care, but you don't carry it. You don't carry the defeats too long. You've got a short memory.
This has been different, I think, than almost anything else I've done because I have, like, the weight has been a lot more personal. You know, like a lot of the other things that I've done, I've been able to go, okay, at the end of the day, here's where I shut off. Here's where I cut it off. Can't do that with this one right now.
Yeah.
You know, I could, but I'm not going to do that. So, you know, but again, it's exciting to be like praying for like right before dinner tonight, because Lex has had a really, really long day today and very, you know, a lot of stuff for her to solve at work. But like I prayed, I was like, God, thank you for giving us hard things to do that give us purpose and give us character, because, you know, in this process, I can very much feel that, you know, that change, and it feels good to be engaged, even though it's very difficult. It feels good to be engaged in something meaningful, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, along those same lines, my latest project, the book, I was emailing back and forth with my content editor today.
So you heard back?
I did.
Nice.
And she was asking me like more about me, which when we only had our first meeting last week, and she's like, you know, I've been stalking you and I've seen, and I'm like, well, it's not really stalking. Like I've told you to.
You put it out there. I mean,
But she asked me today, like, do you have like, can you tell me more about yourself and your family? Is there like a podcast or, and I'm like, if you've been stalking me, you'd know that. But then I thought about it. There's no really like, we've had episodes on so many of our loved ones, but like, there's not the Jay Mitlow episode. You have to listen to all the episodes to really get most of the Jay Mitlow stories. So like I sent her my bio and I sent her a couple articles and whatever else. And then at the very end, I was like, I said, well, you may have seen this, but, and I sent her the open letter to a surgeon for my blog post. I said, just to further, you know, that really doesn't say much about me, but it's my writing. And then I sent her the open letter to Kennywood.
Kennywood.
And it was about 5:10 p.m. and I have to be at Grief Share by 5:45 is when I want to be. And it was so funny because I'm reading it and I wrote it, I've read it, whatever else. But I got to this moment where it was the night before Trey died. And I wrote this in the open letter to Kennywood because he was in a lot of pain. I was giving him a bath and he said, I said, what do you want to talk about? And like, he was barely almost whispering at this point. And he said, let's talk about Kennywood. And so we went over all the Kennywood stuff. And he said, what was your favorite ride? And I said, any ride I rode with you. Well, I hadn't read that in forever.
You said that to him or he said that to you?
I said it to him. He said, what was your favorite ride? Because I'd ask him what his favorite rides were. And I'm sitting there and I'm crying. And I was like, oh, I got to leave Grief Share in 45 minutes. What kind of an idiot are you? And then I went, and you said earlier, Brian, off the air, how much you said like my brain or admire my brain or whatever.
Yeah.
Because then I went, well, maybe it's a good thing that I'm in this place right before I go to Grief Share. I'll be better in touch with my whatever. But I mean, it's been a while since I got a little mini grief storm like kicking the butt because I went right back to that bathtub, right back to that minute, and I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. Wow.
I've never heard it and I almost started to cry just now.
And then I went in the kitchen to make Rachel's lunch for tomorrow because I don't want to do it after the podcast. And she didn't have bacon. So then I had to hurry up and make bacon in a half hour. And I rolled into Grief Share.
That's tough to do.
In touch with my emotions and stinking like bacon.
Hey, that's not bad.
That's where I was.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
And Mary Lynn is with us. And I've just kicked her in the stomach by bringing up
How do you follow that?
Well, the day after that, no. That morning,
Yes.
Kathy had come to Pittsburgh and we were all, it was election day. So the kids weren't
See, that
at school.
I don't remember.
I do because we were in the bedroom with the bunk beds and Jay came in to get Joe and said, Joe, come on, it's time to go it's time for a haircut. And Trey, who's still in bed, says, I need a haircut too. He goes, I will go first. Joe, you will go second. Those are the last words I ever heard.
Are you serious? I don't think you ever said that. Oh, you maybe
I've told
did.
her,
You're right.
yeah.
That
I
is
like
classic.
That's classic Trey.
Classic Trey.
24 hours left in his life, and he's being competitive with his brother and demanding everything
Not
else.
competitive.
Not good. Well,
He was
demanding.
stating.
He was demanding.
Stating,
Yeah, there's
he was
no
stating a
competition.
fact.
Yeah.
He was
I will
stating
go
a fact.
first.
You will go second. I just
That's
had
great.
to kick myself out of the bathtub there for a minute.
Yeah, so to speak.
So to
So what else
speak.
going on, Mayor?
I'm trying to catch up with reality after a musical.
Yeah.
I was back with my boys in the back row last week, back in the worship team, and catching up with work and anything else I was behind on.
Musicals a lot.
And especially if it's Joseph with 24 songs and it's all singing.
Yeah, that is a lot.
But it's it's good. I'm not having well, I was going to say I'm not having a conversation with my dad in the bathtub about Kennywood, so
You've got your own Kennywood bath stories.
So I know you can't talk about
anything,
or anybody,
anybody.
but I'm going to talk about the general, your husband.
Yes.
Not really talk about him.
Okay.
Ethan wants to go to become a officer, a lawyer, possibly. And the only, like, he's talking about Marines right now. And the only reason he's doing that is because nobody in our family has ever gone through the Marines. It's been Air Force, Navy, and Army. So I might have Ethan talk to the general at some point.
Well, true story. We were both, I don't know if it was one of our car trip listening to the podcast. No, I think we were at home. And he heard you talk about this a month or
About
so
Ethan,
ago.
Yeah.
One of Bob's nicknames is Googs. So
Googs?
Google, short.
Because he Googles all the time.
So he instantly starts to Google.
That's what they call me at work.
They call him a jag.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
They call him a
Jags.
jag.
Yeah.
He's like, I said, Bob, can you get Ethan a scholarship? And he's like, so he's already knows about it. He's on it.
Nice.
So
All right.
when you're ready to talk,
That's the general.
I don't think Bob can give him a scholarship. It's like in the Army, at least, the lawyers, the doctors, and the chaplains, they're kind of like their own special group. And they're like the same but different. So,
All right.
but anyway, he heard about it. He's cool, but he's like, I know.
General
It's
Big
not-
Guy's on it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll get them hooked up.
Yeah.
And we're grateful that the big guy sits at the table with us most weeks. And we're grateful that Mary Lynn sits at the head of the table.
Yeah.
Alongside Ashley, who I'll be seeing tomorrow evening.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Aw.
And Breaking 90. And so if you too want to sit at the head of the table, just go to lunchtimeinrome.com, click on subscribe, and become a paid subscriber.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I actually had somebody ask me for the relational needs questionnaire, and they said they tried to get it on the website, but they didn't. It said they had to subscribe, and so then I had to take a screenshot and say, you could hit the no thanks part right
yeah.
underneath there. And they were like, well,
on
you know
going.
I'm old. And I'm like, I'm not saying you're old. I'm just saying you didn't see no thanks on there is all that it is. I don't know what to tell you.
It's a fascinating test with fascinating results. Like, I might take it again because it's been a couple years. It's such a great test that everybody should take.
Yeah.
Yes. And what you will not find on your relational needs questionnaire is destructive communication patterns, for lack of a better term. A couple weeks ago, we did a podcast on red flag statements. And we've said before that, like, the love languages are sort of the Roman numerals, but your emotional needs are further down the outline. You know, they're the why you have those things. Well, we looked at red flag statements that indicate maybe a little bit of emotional immaturity. I almost said insecurity. Immaturity. Well, these things are perhaps underneath those things. And so we're going to unwrap them over the next couple of weeks with maybe a break or two with a different podcast or whatever else. And the first one tonight, which we need to look at how we define the podcast. Like, tonight is destructive patterns. But I don't know if you want to title the podcast Destructive Patterns Polarizing. Destructive, what is that what it is?
It says polarizing patterns we said polarizing patterns in the intro. That's what mine says.
No. Tonight's episode is Destructive Patterns.
Tonight we'll be looking at polarizing patterns.
Correct. But as the
So,
title of
yeah.
the podcast, we'll just say destructive patterns.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, should it say, and I was struggling with this, should it say destructive patterns dash polarizing?
You tell me.
Well, you're the SEO guy, though.
I am.
Because then next week it'll be,
man, that's
you know,
clear.
minimizing or whatever the next one is.
Oh,
Marilyn's already bought in. So it's polarizing for tonight. Okay. Is the first one. When somebody's perception and communication is always polarizing. The simple description is there's only one way to do something. Mm-hmm. Everything's right. Mm-hmm. Everything's wrong. And you see the world in absolutes. Why did you already grimace? Because there's someone you can't talk about that is that way?
no,
Oh,
because
no.
it sounds like the Army.
Well, that would
Well,
be
we all know who she's talking about now.
No. Big Army. Big Army.
big army.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah. I know somebody like that I work with.
It's absolutes. Yeah.
Everything's black and white. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say that because underneath the description is life is viewed as all or nothing, good or bad, black or white.
Yeah. Well, and they're a lovely person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I probably should have prefaced that this doesn't mean these are not irregular people or defiant, obstinate. In general, the whole pattern thing. These are just things that people pick up that you like. Your relationship might be fine, but then all of a sudden, boom, something happens and this rears its ugly head, and you can't define it. You're not really sure what it is. So a lot of why we're going over these destructive patterns is you can be like, oh, and in the preview on Facebook, I wrote, you know, we might know somebody like this, and then I finished with, yeah, maybe that somebody is you, because if you're around somebody who's this way. Unless they're really open and receptive, it's not like you're going to go to them and say, you know, I was doing a pod or listening to a podcast, and you have a very polarizing way of perceiving everything.
And I just want to say, to be fair, I think I can only speak for the Army. They're trying to not be that way all the time because they realize people aren't built that way. And they need, while there needs to be structure, and this is the way to do it, and this is the way not to do it, sometimes there has to be give and take.
Isn't that why the Russians are kind of overtaking us, though, in the Army?
That's another whole podcast.
Yeah. All right.
They're not.
China's not worried about
They're not.
Taiwan right now. Let me tell you that much.
Okay. Let's move on.
Just move on.
Lunchtime in Russia.
Military in Rome. Wait, no, that's another whole. So why we're doing is to really help us understand ourselves, but also perhaps have more perspective on those in our life that maybe have these types of patterns of behavior. Other ways to describe it are indicators of it as rigid rules are held for evaluating life. So there's rigidness and there's not a lot of compromise. This one's important. Little satisfaction felt in modest performance or genuine effort.
Wow. Yeah.
Can you break that down?
Sure. You don't get much satisfaction, or they don't get satisfaction in job well done or good try or, hey, we didn't get all the way there, but we made progress.
That's me.
As I read that, I went, oh, Marilyn's ready. Right. Like B+. Her face is perfect for her podcast. She's grimacing and making peach pit face. I can't even do it on purpose. Does that make sense, though?
Well, what if it's just a person that doesn't have a high need of appreciation?
Well, it has nothing to do with appreciation if it's in themselves.
What was the first part that you said?
They get little satisfaction
Yeah.
in modest performance or genuine effort.
Okay, so it's like I got
So the
it.
person
It's
that goes
perfectionistic.
Right.
tendency.
Yeah.
the person that says, well, I did the best I could does not suffer from this. The person that says, well, don't do your best, do my best.
Right.
It was just like the other day I said to Bob, my old office mate said to me, you got to get over these perfectionistic tendencies. I said to Bob, well, I have clearly flunked that task.
Did you say, I will become the best at getting over perfectionism?
I can't help it.
The last is they experience, this one. Wah. They experience little joy when successful because it was expected all along.
Now, this is a person as reflecting on themselves and how they feel about themselves, or is this somebody that you're in a group setting and this is how they perceive everybody else?
I would say both.
Great. Okay.
Because say you're in a group project.
Yep.
Or say we had a vacation and, but it rained Thursday. Like, yeah. But
I was going to
but-
say, this person would be tough to work with.
Sure. And I'll bet you they're very successful
Sure.
or miserable because
Right.
no matter what
Maybe
they do.
both.
Now go to a relationship. Like, hey, last month we did, you have your marriage check-in, and hey, last month I think we did really well. The kids were good. Yeah, they missed 3 days of school. Yeah, but
Would you say this person is more of a pessimist or an optimist?
what would you
Like-
say?
I would say pessimist.
Yeah. Glass half empty.
I don't know that it matters.
I mean, I think, Jay, your reference, do my best, not your best.
Right.
Then they're always going to expect that somebody's not going to do like the way they want it done.
Like, I don't mind if you're like that for yourself. Like, if those are your standards, great.
I was going to say, because it's me,
That's-
it's me
Yeah,
to
that's
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have high standards for myself, but like when it gets to the point where it becomes external into like if you have to do some kind of team activity or you have to exist in society outside of yourself, like those people really I have trouble.
Oh, and the guy that wrote that document up for Hunter when he was starting his business.
Oh yeah, donk.
And he said, expect like your crew or your people working for you to do about 80% of what you do.
When you're budgeting when you're making a bid, he said if you think it would take you 100 hours to do this project, but you're employing other people, budget them at 80% of your time because they're not going to work as hard as you're going to work.
Right.
Right.
And back to your point, Brian, I think the point of this is also given the parameters or the focus or the purview or the looking through the lens of relationships. So whether it's a working relationship, so you as an individual, but even so, if you're holding yourself to a super high standard and anything less than that standard is failure, well, you're going to be hard to be in a relationship with. That might not bother you, but it's going to bother the people you
that
work
you're
with, the
interacting
people
with.
that
Right.
you're, imagine again, from a parenting perspective, Dad, I got a B+. I mean, again, I had a guy one time when I was teaching emotional needs when we were talking about respect and belonging. And he goes, oh, I understand belonging because I knew it was important to be a Miller. He goes, but I don't understand respect. Well, I also understand respect because I didn't get it. Because if I got anything less than an A, it got put on the refrigerator, circled, and it said Millers only get A's.
Yeah.
That's
Also
just
acceptance.
cold.
Yeah, it's
See,
cold.
Maggie gets a B. I'm like, we got a Harvard kid in the family, right? You know what I'm saying?
That's a chip above the old block.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to an attitude and demeanor that is lacking grace. And that's that kind of person's very tough for me to be around. I think a lot of people, it's that kind of person's tough for them to be. Like, again, you can be a leader and have the highest standards and we've done our disc tests and like there's the driver. Like the driver can be the person that like, look, we got to get through this.
Wait, I just want everybody to know. You just said disc test.
Just
Driver.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's a disc golf test? And so you're a driver or maybe a mid-range or
that's where your brain went. Yeah, of
That's where
course.
mine went too.
But yeah, I mean, there's a personality test. What kind of person? So and the driver is the person that's like, we're getting there. Whatever comes between. But you can still do that. You can still lead with grace and have those high standards. It's the people that are polarizing that don't understand grace. They don't understand. I don't know how to do that in a way that is constructive.
Right. You can still hold those high standards, but you have to have that
Well, and again,
grace.
you might be an effective. Well, one could argue you're not really an effective leader if you're that kind of leader. I'll bet they get things done, but it also doesn't mean it's easy to be in a relationship with them.
Right. Exactly.
there are-
See, that's where Bob's good for me because I'll be upset about something and he's like, ML, it's fine. And that helps.
No, yeah, he is definitely not this.
No.
No, he
But
has to operate within this.
Yeah, but I don't direct it outward. I just put it all right here.
What do you mean?
My profession,
yourself.
I put it all
Oh
on
no,
myself.
I meant right. So you're yeah. I was going back to Bob being in the army,
Oh, no.
and I'm saying how he's outside of that. No, you don't project it out at all. But Like, and by the way, you just said these people would be hard to be in a relationship with. I think we're going to find with each and every one of these, you'd go,
These people are hard to be in a relationship with.
we should just keep that as like a consistent like point to Brian. These people would be hard to be in a relationship with.
That's a new T-shirt, Chris.
Yeah, that's what.
After FLR.
That's where he's at tonight.
Yeah,
Chris-
that's actually what he's doing
Chris is
tonight.
doing
He's
merch
working all
tonight.
the merch.
Okay.
So we
Love
have
you,
said
Chris.
with, I was just talking to somebody about emotional needs.
What?
I know, it's crazy. And they were talking about how, it's formulated pretty much between 0 and 12. And we were talking about that. Well, guess what? A lot of the background for why people have a polarizing viewpoint of life and or communication pattern, we have to look at the background, and it says, number one, you're often brought up in legalistic, critical, or performance-oriented families where there were many insecurities and fears. Mm-hmm. Meaning they had many insecurities and fears because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The child very often experienced never good enough responses.
What a hard life to live, man. Just, you're never good enough. Like the gospel of Christ is you're not good enough, and Christ paid the price for you anyways. Like,
Right. Whereas in this family, you're not good enough.
the end.
That's it. Well, and I remember years ago when I was leading Young Life at Penn Trafford, and I'm like, okay, let's go to the really successful suburban school where all the cool families are moving and everything's good. And I'm leaving, I've just handed off Penn Hills to my other leaders where this is the tough community and everything else. And it was this kid who was a superstar everything kid, and it's a football game, and he is obliterated, drunk out of his mind. And he was just saying how I didn't get into Brown. I don't think I'm getting into Harvard. And my dad is going to be so mad. And my mom is, she has to go back to work because our house is this and everything else. And I'm alone all the time. And I was just like, brah. Kids at Penn Hills are like, I'm just going to go buy more weed. It's like, and this kid's just dying on a vine. They may have been surrounded by people who are consistently criticized and evaluated. Would be the last background to these people.
Okay. I thought you were moving on to the next one. Okay, gotcha.
Nope, that was the last background information.
Makes sense.
And I don't think any of us here, because one of the things we want to do is sort of apply to our own lives.
Yeah.
Like, we certainly have not raised our children this way. Your oldest child, well, no, he didn't, though. I was going to say he carried himself this way, except he gave himself a lot of grace, too. Though.
Oh, tons. Don't forget. Bone of my bone.
Yes. If you just stuck with bone, that would have made no sense to anybody else. So we have to look at what is truth. If things, if polarizing is not accurate to look at life, well, what is the truth? And the truth is that some issues are black and white, but many are very gray. And that, go ahead.
I feel like the older I get, the more it's like, there's a lot of gray.
Oh, it's real gray out there.
You don't want to, I don't think you want to seek for gray. Like you want to seek for the absolutes. What is the truth? What is the baseline? What is the foundation? But then as you get into these, places or situations in life, like you have to allow, like something that Amy Raymond says, multiple things can be true at the same time.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Right. And I think that as you get into big situations in life, you can look at it and go, this is true, this is true, this is true. And all of these things come into play here. But I look at the society that we live in now, right? And like, it's either, what is it? It's called the Hegelian dialectic, where
Hegel.
Yeah, not Joseph Hegel. Hegel, but
Harry.
Harry Hegel.
It's not Harry.
But no, like I think he was a psychologist in the 1800s or early 1900s, and basically the Hegelian dialectic is we have to make it binary because you're able to either manipulate or get people to do something easier from a leadership standpoint if you make it binary for them. And the fact of the matter to me in our world is not a binary world.
No, but that is the Hegelian dialect is a very manipulative tool. Now we're going to go into propaganda in Rome.
Yeah.
Because what our world has done is said, well, that's hate speech. And so anything that I don't like is hate speech, and you're a terrible person.
Right.
And that's using that same dialect.
Here's
You're going to bring it back.
Here's the topic. You're either for it or against it. There's no in between.
And I get to decide
Yes.
whether you're for or against it based on your performance. Go on.
I was just going to say, that's why I don't watch the news.
It's a good point. You should never watch the news. You should maybe research news, but never watch it.
Yeah, you should definitely get your news from somewhere, just probably not the news.
I get it from Bob.
It's a good place.
So,
So number one, and you said as you get older, like it's all gray. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost all gray. God is good, and there is evil.
Right.
There's black. There's white.
Christ rose from the dead. Like that's the pinnacle. That's the foundational statement. Everything else, like at this point, I'm like,
Pretty
all right.
gray.
You know, and you look at why do no offense to, well, yeah, I don't care if you're offended. College.
I almost said, "Hey, good save." Then
No.
you follow it with, "And I don't care if you're offended."
No, young dumb college kids. No offense. I don't care.
Even young smart college.
Even young, but like there's a reason why, you know, so many of these predators that are pushing an agenda in our reality go to college campuses, because you have 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds that, you know, they haven't discovered the fact that multiple things can be true, and you need to take lots of viewpoints, because they can just say to these particular people, it's black or white, it's this or that, it's yes or no. And if you don't agree with this,
Well, and it's, are you a leader or a follower? I think a lot of young adults are followers, and they sometimes don't know why, but it's because they're friends. You know, they
Right.
do what their friends do.
Not a lot of nuance.
not a lot of nuance. Nuance is a great word. Instead of like gray areas, nuance, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the second truth behind this is that Scripture encourages discernment. But deciding to hold something against another or myself is warned against. So, or no, I don't know if it says but. Why did I write that? Anyhow, there should be discernment. It's not just black and white. And I talk about that from a faith perspective all the time. Like, you know, why doesn't the Bible say, do this in this case, do this in this case, do this in this case? Because then it leaves discernment out, and you become your own God.
Free will.
Well, not just free will, but your ability to decide and to connect with God and say, God, is this, you know, should I do this? Should I not do this? Because God may call you to do one thing in one moment, you know, go and pursue somebody who's walking away from you. But I always say, as far as discipling or even just loving somebody, sometimes you're called to be the prodigal father, because he doesn't chase after the prodigal son. He just waits. He, in fact, gives him his money and says, go destroy your life. But then we also speak of Jesus being the good shepherd who leaves the 99 and chases down the one. Well, which are you supposed to be? Well, you're supposed to discern and seek the Holy Spirit in that. Messy, huh?
Hard.
Matthew 7, 1 through 5 is a scripture that they talk about. They connect to this. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. And what's interesting is, we all know that.
Man.
What?
That one hits me sometimes. I'm like, ugh.
Why don't you expand on that?
Well,
a
just
little
because,
bit?
like, I mean, I think everybody's like somewhat judgmental, but there's some things that like I've judged in my life, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be tough when I get up there. If I'm gonna be judged like I judge other, I'm like, there's some things.
Well, but the point is, and so the scripture goes on. It's Matthew 7, 1 through 5. For the same way you judge others, you'll be judged. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust? If you can look it up yourself. But the person who looks through life polarizing, when they're beating themselves up, they're unfairly judging themselves. And they're they're holding themselves to a standard, that which is not attainable. And that, I think, is something that, I don't want to say grieves God's heart, or I don't want to use whatever Christianese, but God's going, I didn't call you to do that. Like you're holding yourself to a standard I wasn't holding you to.
I think about the
Rats.
So wait, I'm a perfectionist, and I'm letting God down of all nights for Maryland to be here.
He's gonna judge you how you judge yourself.
He will. He'll be like, seriously, why are you holding yourself to a standard that I don't hold you to?
right. It's
And how
so
dare
evil.
you hold somebody else?
Yeah.
I don't want to roll into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a sneaky, awful tool from the devil. I think about the priests that whip themselves, and it's like
Monks.
we monks, but we are so. I mean, it's a brutal, real example of people physically doing that, but we do it. Like we do it to ourselves,
And again, not to over whatever, but like there's Jesus on the cross. He's like, I did this for you.
Right.
We're good. You don't have to do that.
Right. Now, again, you should feel convicted. You should, like within yourself, you should feel, on a daily basis as you journey forward, you should feel that prompting from God to, hey, you fell short.
Right. But if all you ever do is beat yourself up,
there's no grace. Again, no grace. There's no forgiveness,
If all you ever do is beat yourself up, there might be times where God was offering you grace that you're going to miss. But what about the times where God's like, no, I need you to step it up. So if you hold yourself to this ceiling that you'll never achieve, you're not going to hear from God when he's like, no, now's the time I need you to bear down. And I'm going to give you a little bit extra this time because you're always just on 100% and you're not going to get, that's like they say, why don't they make cars only go 65 miles an hour? Why don't they make it so that no car can go faster than 65 miles an hour?
To maintain the speed limit?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And the reason is Brian would be sad. But the reason is it would blow out the engine because everybody would be driving at 100%. Well, if you're keeping yourself at 100%, you never have the ability to go higher. So same thing with not giving yourself that kind of grace. You're leaving out God's ability to give you a little boost to get you to that next level or tell you, you didn't really do so good this time. Back in the day, I was meeting with somebody and I was telling him about how I was leading my junior leaders. These are high school kids who have committed their lives to Christ and they want to reach their friends for Christ. And I told them that leadership was Sunday nights at 6:30. And if you were late, we locked the door. And that this and that and the other thing. And I was holding these standards and everything else. And they go, wow, you're really tough on them. I said, hey, we're trying to get them to where they got to go. And the person said, do you hold yourself to those same standards? And I went, gosh, no. So on the one hand, we don't want to judge ourselves. And again, if you're a parent and you're raising your children this way, you don't want to be judging them to this standard. But also that the middle ground can often be acceptable and in fact enjoyable. Ephesians 5:20, always give thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus. Give thanks. So like, hey, we didn't hit our goal. Praise God. We're back to, say it. Oh, I thought you were going to go there. We didn't hit our goal. Good.
Oh.
Jocko Willmick.
Yeah.
Tell that to Kona.
Yeah.
I'm $200,000 down in receipts this month.
Good.
Kono, the Bible says to give thanks in all things.
I did tell him the other day, though. I said, look, for as messy as this has been, now we've got your number. Like you're at a point with your numbers and with your accounting that you haven't been in a long time. This is an opportunity for you to kind of shake all the trees and just see everything. He's like, you know what? You're a really good salesman. He's like, you know what? And it was a good, funny conversation.
Now that I've delayed you from getting your receipts for 6 months, now you have a great opportunity to get 6 months receipts in one day.
Right. Like nothing.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
But if you think about it, and it goes back to the point of one of the characteristics being you experience little joy, even when you're successful. You're certainly not experiencing joy if it's either 100% or fail.
Yeah.
If anything less than 100 is fail.
Well, and even how happy are you at 100?
You're not. That's the whole point.
Because
that's the expectation.
Because I feel like that kind of person is also thinking about the next thing that they gotta tackle.
People climb mountains, they get to the top of the mountain, and it's a wonderful experience. Then they come down from the mountain, and then they live in a bunch of Tuesdays. You know what I mean? And that's life. Like if you're always on the top of the mountain or you're always down in the valley, those are not good places to be. There's a lot of gratitude to find on your Tuesdays, and I think that what you're talking about here does tie back into a great, this scripture ties into a grateful life. Be thankful in everything, hey, we fell short of our goal. Great. Good. This is an opportunity for us. What do we learn from this? How do we get better at this?
Two sports references. Tom Brady, we all love him. He said, I don't really care about winning Super Bowls. I just hate losing them. Yay. Like, that's terrible. And Rich Franklin, UFC middleweight champion, one of my favorite fighters of all time, said the saddest day of his life is when he won the UFC belt. And he was like, oh,
He accomplished it.
so I did it.
Yeah.
You know. Then it was the saddest day in his life is when Anderson Silva broke his nose twice. And I still don't like Anderson Silva. When the story is this. The effects that it has on a relationship, polarizers have perfectionist thinking patterns and can be more than a little difficult to live with. We should rank these when we're done,
All right.
of which the most difficult to live with.
Like, what did you say next week's going to be?
Nah, I don't know. Minimizing is one of them.
So, like, you're saying, like, we'll go through the series.
Minimizing. I could look it up. But
Yeah.
anyhow, hard to live with. They may judge the other person in the relationship's performance on the basis of their own impossible standards.
Oh, yeah.
That's like even worse.
But I think it's subtle. Like, I think it, in its extreme, it's obvious. But it's very subtle at times too. So, for example, let's use a random example. If I wanted Rachel, if I held her to my standard of affection, well, no, that's just silly.
Right.
That's absolutely. But here's the subtlety. I probably did for many years.
Right. Right.
You know, we impose upon, and that's just some emotional need talk. But if you're a perfectionist, if you are a polarizer, and it's either pass fail, it'd be a brutal way, and you're imposing your value system, your scoring system on them. Like, imagine a little kid. You know, again, I got a B plus. Oh, you're such a disappointment. You know, I cut the grass. Did you see how many areas you missed? That was one of the hardest things with Joe when he started cutting the grass.
Oh, gosh. Brutal.
You know, and I have to be like, all right, I have to teach him how to do it the right way, but I want him to do it again, but I want him to feel good about himself. But if I just said, nope, you failed, do it again.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was also thinking, like, you know, we love other people how we want to be loved. And we've talked about this a lot, like where...
We give what we want.
Right, exactly. So, like, when it comes down to emotional needs, you know, if Amy has a high need of support, but all I do is encourage her, it's not helping at all.
Right.
You know, or even, you know, in the love languages, you know, if somebody has a high need of words of affirmation...
And you give them gifts.
Yeah, like, that's not doing anything.
Right. And so this is kind of a bubble that it's your overall affect, your overall way you carry yourself. So you're imposing that on somebody else. Brutal.
Yeah.
So how do we overcome that? That's the question. Well, I'd say number one, you take note of your reactions and analyze what prompted your responses. So what am I feeling? Why did I apply this perfectionist, this polarizing thing to it? 2 Corinthians 10, 3-5, to summarize, is you're taking thoughts captive. So it says, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight are not the weapons of this world. On the contrary, I don't know. Oh, there it is at the very end. Sorry. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought and make it obedient to God. So we take captive the thoughts and make it obedient to God. So you're having this polarizing moment, and you're like, was that you? Or did God give you that moment? You just took a deep breath because you wanted to say?
Well, I think a lot of if you're a polarizing person or you're in a relationship with polarizing people, again, I mean, God is the picture of all that we should attain towards. And can God be polarizing? Polarizing? Yes. Right. But in a relationship with you, if you're his child, he's giving you grace. He's giving you these things. And like, if we're modeling our relationship with him in our relationships to others, or even within ourselves, we're going to find a lot of that polarization goes away because of the grace, because of the forgiveness and redemption and mercy. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's the first part is take note of your reactions. So, okay, you had a good day, not a great day. All right, I failed. So I'm taking note. Wait, I really feel like a failure right now. Okay. Well, what prompted that response? Well, I didn't meet my expectations. I set this goal. All right, well, let me take that thought captive. What does God say about that? Oh, he's probably not beating me up over that. When we have these impossible standards, we're holding ourselves to a standard God has not imposed upon
Right.
us.
And
Now, if you killed somebody, yeah, God held that standard. Don't kill. Why were you laughing?
I was just gonna say, I'm always like, there's always tomorrow.
Oh, that's so nice.
You are, but you're also not.
Yeah.
Like if you, no.
Well, I mean,
if
like,
you
just
got
to,
a
like-
95,
Yeah.
hey, tomorrow, well, actually, if you got 80,
Yeah.
but however, if you got a 40,
Yeah. Yes. I'm hurting. I'm hurting.
well,
we could dig into that some though. Because on one hand, you give yourself grace for not 100, but if you fail, like if you don't win, you're okay.
Yeah.
But if
I'm
you
not,
fail-
like, yeah.
You're not okay. Right.
well, and to your point about take every thought captive, and how that's should change you over time. That also requires time to think and time to take every thought captive and time to reflect on that. You know what I mean? And that's like, great, take every thought captive. What are you going to do with that now?
Well, I'll tell you what you should do with
Great.
that now. But the other point is that's why this isn't going to work necessarily if you go back, if you pull away from the table after sitting here with us, and then you go downstairs and you say, listen, spouse, I was thinking we got to fix your polarizing behavior. They've got to be engaged in it. Yes.
I just wanted to say, I think there's, like, for me, growing up 3 men makes a difference. Mm-hmm. There's the whole male female different thing. There is an age thing. Mm-hmm. And the polarizing, like, I don't know that I ever projected my feelings.
I don't think you did.
No, I don't think I did.
No, you always kept it internal.
Yeah, it probably would have been healthier to just let
No,
it out.
you'd have killed Michael.
No.
If you would have imposed
could never.
that poor little puppy.
Never.
No,
Never.
Mike P wouldn't have. If you would have no, he wouldn't have made it. Matthew wouldn't have cared.
He just,
So,
You're exactly
so actually,
right.
it was.
that's where I got flipping my switch.
Yeah.
That's where I got
Detaching.
flipping.
So take your thoughts captive. Okay, all right. Why did I feel that way to us? And then focus on what is actually true. We said you can have joy in less than 100%. That there is the middle ground. There's joy in there. Mm-hmm. And so Philippians 4:8 is a scripture verse I use a lot. A lot of people use Philippians 4:6 and 7. Be anxious over nothing. A couple of weeks ago when we talked about gratitude and anxiety not being able to coexist. Those are two things that can't exist. It can't be true at the same time. But then Philippians 4:8 is focus on all that is good, all that is holy. If anything is worthy, focus on these things. So if you're sitting here going 95, failure, well, you're not focusing on all that is good. Mm-hmm. You're not focusing on all that is holy.
Again, optimism and pessimism.
Yeah, well, it's very pessimistic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not focused. Well, and I want to encourage us too. Like, I want to say that we're not saying on this podcast, it's okay to be mediocre. It's okay to, it may be okay. Like, you want to have high standards. You want to do things with excellence, but it's okay.
A little perspective.
Yes.
If you fall short.
Right. But I wanted to make it clear that we're not being like, oh, yeah, you can use
Right.
me.
We're not getting soft here.
Don't be
We're not getting
lukewarm.
soft. Right.
Do you know what, though? People are who they are. Everybody has their gifts. And you have to meet people where they're at.
Sure.
That's kind of like one of my things. Like,
Well, that goes back to the gray area. They're not bad people. They've just been raised a
No.
certain way. They're the way they are. So in that gray area is,
Yeah.
okay, how can I work with them in this moment? It's the exact application of this entire point.
thank you.
So they did give an example.
Thank you.
So you're at work and your project is criticized. Your boss comes in, here's what needs to be better, whatever else. A polarizing person might react, I knew I'd fail. Which it's so funny because I'm like, oh. Like right there, I'm already done. Mm. And so they get angry at their boss. And again, whether it be a husband-wife relationship. Oh, honey, I think you could have done this better. Oh, it's never good enough. So what do? You get angry at the critic and you beat yourself up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, of course, I failed again. I'm the worst. Or you're too critical, or you're too, and it's on. It's combative right from the jump street. So instead, a renewed response might look like this. You would replace I knew I'd fail with, I added them. Because I'm taking, what am I doing?
Taking thoughts captive.
That's what I'm doing. And then I'm applying that which is true. So you say, the project wasn't perfect. But there was a lot of good in it. I'll bet I could improve it. Isn't that nice?
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so healthy. That's healthy.
And that way you become free to evaluate the criticism and consider changes and move on. And again, we talk so much in general, more in church, about the spiritual battle that we're in. So you look at what the enemy's doing. You're raised by somebody who had their reasons. They were trying their best, whatever. And so now you've got this polarizing behavior or pattern. So now every time somebody wants to help you and says you can do it differently, what do? You shut it down. And you get angry at them, which causes a divide. You beat yourself up, which further puts yourself down, which sets you up for the next time somebody criticizes you to push back even further. And all the good you could have done, you don't experience, you don't get to accomplish, you don't experience the joy of it, and you're ended up just a miserable person to be around.
We could talk about this later, but I feel like as we're talking about this, I feel like I've had to become a person that moved away from being a polarizing person internally within myself. Maybe not against other people, but I was just thinking about how I've tried to be such an overachiever, I think, so that I don't have to have the criticism, because the criticism didn't feel good. You know what I mean? Like, and so I became somebody that's like, well, I'll just do a great job all the time. And anyways,
hard to do.
That's all. Yeah, that's a whole different topic.
So given those examples, and in conclusion, a general template is, you want to take thoughts captive. What does that mean? Number one, ask yourself, is this 100% accurate? That I have to have 100%? Is it even feasible? Is it accurate? Or could my past hurts be clouding my judgment? And there's a self-awareness that is unattainable to a lot of, not unattainable, not conditioned, not exercised.
It's certainly not a natural thing in this day and age. Like, we have to, that's why we're doing this podcast, you know?
Right. The next one is, and this is touch. And by the way, these are mine. This isn't from the notes. Allow your loved ones to have input and perspective. Give them permission.
Yeah.
Because guess what? They've been conditioned to not.
Right.
I think that's a really important thing to say. Look, I know that I'm struggling with this, and I give you permission for that to go ahead and tell me that it's okay, and let me know, because right. So then, how do you think about what is true? Number one, overcome your past hurts and the past judgment. Work through that. Work through the hurts of your childhood. Have that be something that is intentional. Hey, if you're all or nothing, hey, let's get on fixing the past hurts of your childhood. Number two, allow your loved ones to say nice things and consider what they say. So if you're the perfectionist, I don't know why I pointed just to Mary Lynn, except she's been our example all night.
It's all right. I'll own it.
And mom, when you had your weekly review of your homework, and she would sit down with you and go over everything in theory, which never happened. And she said, "You got a B. That's good."
She used to say to me, "Can't you just get a B?"
Why did she say that?
Because I wanted A's.
Right. And by the time it filtered down to number 5, she told me, "Honey, don't get A's.
Can you go to school?
Just get B's. Just get B's. That's fine."
My mother used to ask me to stay.
She was
She'd
not
tell me to
polarizing.
stay home when I was sick. But I'm like, but there's so much work to make up.
So allow them to say, allow the person in your relationship, your loved one, and or if you're at work, your boss, whatever else, give them the opportunity to help you give thanks in all things. So the project wasn't 100%. Okay. Allow them to say, hey, 80% was good, or we almost hit the mark. That's a good job. Don't be the person who goes, no, it's got to be 100%. I've never lived with that person.
Except when you have tough bosses, that's kind of... That's another,
Well, that's not somebody who's going to be doing that.
Yeah,
No, they're not doing
that's
that.
another whole... Yeah,
No, it's a polarizing boss.
Yeah.
And then I added a note to the loved one. So you're dealing with a polarized person, polarizing communication pattern person. And my encouragement to you is don't lie. Don't say, oh, it's good. I love what you did here. And like you're lying. So number 2 is allow your loved one to say nice things. Mm-hmm. Well, number 3 is if you're the loved one, don't lie or distort it, because then you're going to lose credibility. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, it looks really nice. And you're like, oh, it does not look really nice. It was an abject. You've got to be credible because they're looking for an opportunity to discredit you for all time moving forward. So that is polarizing.
And that.
Wow, that was a fast wrap up.
Wow.
I was just concluding that part there.
I'm sorry?
No, do we need to wrap that up at all? Do we find that to be a productive way to looking at this? Was it a complete failure? Never mind. This whole thing's the worst. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's a great discussion.
Yeah.
Because we all have, I think we all or most of us have a polarizing person.
I thought you were going to say polarizing tendencies.
No, I think all or
both.
most of us, I mean, again, the world is a very polarizing place, and people very much lack self-introspection anymore to even combat that. So I think it's great we're addressing it.
I'm
for
looking
sure.
forward to the further ones to see which ones. Like tonight,
Yeah.
Marilyn was like, "Oh, a little bit of me there." Again, that we could delve more into that, or could have, because you don't hold others to that standard, but you certainly hold it to your own standard.
Except for golf. Because I don't try to be perfect at golf. I'm just happy when it goes
quit.
up. No, I started again.
Oh, no, I mean you'll quit in a round and get mad.
Just for a hole or two.
As it is. As we go through these other destructive patterns, I wonder if we will go, oh, that one's me. Hopefully not.
Yeah, but everybody's allowed to have something.
We give grace. There's beauty in the gray.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the gray.
There's beauty in the gray.
And that being said, that's it for episode 240. Join us next Wednesday live at 8:30 for episode 241. Between now and then, please make sure to give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtime@inrome.com. While there, take our relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
Beauty in the gray.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.